Well, hi there. I'm Diana Montford, the world's first transgender television journalist. Go on YouTube, you'll see me in 1991. Oh dear. The hair, the shoulder pads, my God. Anyway, I am the world's first transgender television journalist. Born male, became female, and my guest is Ms. Curtsy. She is, as she puts it, a drag queen and a sculptor of liberation?
Change, liberation?
Of change.
Movement?
Whatever.
Yeah.
And we are
Keep
going to
going.
talk about the great Jack Doro Show, more popularly known as Flawless Sabrina. If you've seen the documentary The Queen from 1968, Flawless Sabrina is the organizer of the drag contest, is the MC, and is basically the guiding light of that particular film and contest. It was the 1967 Miss Drag Queen contest.
Miss America. A Miss America version.
Miss American Drag of 1967, and it was filmed that year, and it was released in 1968. It has become a hallmark in LGBTQ filmmaking. It is a timeless film. It features, of course, Rachel Harlow, who went on to, own her own club and many other. Rachel Harlow's the young blonde boy who ultimately wins the contest, and many other wonderful drag artists, some of whom, naturally enough, this being 50-something years ago, are no longer with us, but have been immortalized forever in the film The Queen. Anyway, we're going to talk about the magnificent Flawless Sabrina, a.k.a. Jack Doro Show. So tell me about Jack. How did he... amazing person.
Well, first, that was a very, very kind and loving introduction, and it means a lot to me to hear that from someone like yourself, of stature yourself. Thank you. I love it. I miss him.
I'm sure you do.
So,
Don't we all?
Yeah. It was I don't like to think I'm painting a picture picture of it, but it was really, I don't think you can ask for anything better in life. And that's the way we had the relationship. It was a 35-year relationship. And I only remember maybe once definitely, maybe twice falling out a little bit. But otherwise, it was happy campers and happy to be camping out together.
That's great. Now, Jack died at the age of 75, didn't he?
So old, 78. 78, yeah. So.
And
it's a good run.
Yeah.
And, he liked, he's a party girl.
Yeah.
He.
And as Sabrina was quite the beauty, I must say,
Yeah, that was a very developed persona. I mean, when I met Jack, which is who I met Jack, and that was, I mentioned earlier, I walked into this bar and there was this kooky person in a white Andy Warhol wig and a dark tuxedo with little velvet lapels and this purple ruffle shirt. And I thought, wow, that's the person for me. I knew right away. There's the kooky professor, and I was happy as pig and you know what.
Yeah.
And
in mascara, yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't take up right away with him. It was a little bit later, a year. I was involved with somebody else, and it didn't, happen like that. But I knew that was the person for me. And so when the opportunity came to reunite, and I called and I said, I'd love to see you, and he said, all right, well, you come around. I'm doing a little thing in a bar over on 42nd Street, and come in, sure. And so I got one of those book lights from Barnes & Noble. I don't know if they still exist, bookstores, but the reading lights. And I put it in my wig and gave myself a spotlight.
How cute
And I
is
was all
that?
guysed up, and I came in and he said, boy, I've never seen that before. Someone came in with their own spotlight. I could see you across that crowded room right away. And we took up together, and he was more mature and wiser. So he said, well, I think maybe you have to give up your job, I'll give up my job, and we got to see if we can have common goals and work on stuff together. And that was a very nice way to build a relationship. It was really beautiful. But at this time, Jack was not doing Flawless Sabrina. That was a persona that he had put to rest for some time, but he was still doing drag, but not necessarily as Flawless Sabrina. You know, he liked a little downtown, off the center kind of stuff, wacky stuff. And so he said, and then eventually he said, you should try it and you'll discover more about yourself, because people are going to see all sorts of things. They'll tell you, they'll just come up with crazy ideas. They think, well, you are. And then you have to find out who you really are, what your values are. And that was what happened. I wasn't always so good at it, but I liked a kooky look and I liked doing that. And it was a license to be silly. Why not have a laugh? And most importantly, have a laugh at yourself a little bit. And so it was a great opening, a flowering, blossoming. I mean, those are cliche metaphors, but I really felt the liberation through it, and having fun. And it wasn't until maybe 10, 12 years in the relationship, at some point, he had a patron that was, recognized the value of that early history and culture, and said, oh, maybe you two aren't doing so swell. We were not good at what we did, but we loved doing it. We were fixing up antiques and stuff like that. But so they re-released the film, and this is take your place and, show yourself.
History, yes.
And when it first came out, that wasn't the case. It was represented, and there were a couple interviews, and I remember going to, believe it or not, it was an MNN show back then, and a review that was like, this is an interesting bit of history. And
I remember in 1968, there was this show called Midday Live, I think, on Channel 5 here in New York, and Josephine Premis was the guest hostess, and she interviewed Rachel Harlow, who was still
very glamorous.
Yes, but which one? Both of
Elegance,
them, actually.
yes.
But Harlow was then whatever her boy name was, I forget now.
Richie. I guess I'm not talking out of term. Jack, they took up. They're very young. They're 20.
And he was, she was very kind to him and very respectful. And I thought, well, that is so cool. I mean, I was like 12 years old. I thought, I can do this. I mean, people like Harlow, people like Candy Darling, they inspired me.
Yeah. And I think that also to know, Richie was a person ahead of the curve on a lot of things. And even though the name was Richie, she was Rachel in the making already. And that's the way she negotiated through space and time and in society. And it was a magnet. People were very drawn to it. Jack, it was a built persona because he was doing showmanship and it was based around that. And it was actually a persona purposely developed to do the show at the MC because it was a competition. And he knew he didn't want to be competitive with the contestants, but he wanted to be, he's dressed up like his old Aunt Sylvia.
But he looked gorgeous.
Very glamorous Jewish lady from Long Island.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And over the top and bigger than life, and carried it too.
Well, he described himself as a bar mitzvah mother.
Yes.
When he was emceeing the show.
Which, in hindsight, that's really what he was to many people. He had a wonderful mother, Eleanor Doroshow, God bless her, and it was unrequited love. It was, that Jewish mother that you can't escape, that you don't want to escape from because it's just safe.
Was she comfortable with his being a drag queen?
Oh my gosh, not only comfortable, she was like, go for it. This is great, and which...
My own mother was like that.
Yeah, that's a nice to have voice on your shoulder. Talking in your ear. Yeah, it was lovely. So the jacket wasn't doing that. So we were hanging out and doing stuff, but he would do kooky, like once in a while, these bar performances that were a little out there, to say the least, but not as flawless, just as this crazy performance artist. But going out and having fun, and then, what happened was, at some point in the relationship, the 80s came, we hid. We were...
Because of the AIDS crisis and all that?
I don't know how I wasn't as conscious of it. A little bit. We knew we were like white on rice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we went to the grocery store together. We went to the laundromat together. We did everything together, and we didn't need that going somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then we became more and more cloistered, and I think part of it was hiding from what was out there in the world that was hard to take, people came to visit, and at this time also the Queen is being re-released,
Mm-hmm.
and people are like going, "You're Flawless Sabrina?" And he said, "Well, you know, he had a lot of humility." And so then being more reintroduced into society, I guess, or nightclub life.
And it became a classic.
They
that
invited us
film.
down to Mother's, Jackie 60,
Yeah,
which was
absolutely.
Chichi
Yeah,
Valenti and Johnny
totally
Dynell
right.
and a lot of other brilliant
Loved
people.
Loved that place.
Yeah, it was a home.
Mm-hmm.
It was just ecstatic. It was like, you know, Jack said, you know, you like the curator of my dreams. You know, you just bring it to life, all this wonderful stuff. And so it was great. And so back out and back around, and then, you know, things evolved too with social media, which Jack wasn't, you know, he wasn't into all that. You know, he liked to, you know, pick up the phone, let me call you.
That's how I do it.
Yeah.
And I have a Jack story to tell.
Yeah.
I'm also in local Democratic politics here in New York.
Yes,
And I'd never met Sabrina. I never did meet Sabrina. I only on the phone.
Oh, I
Believe
feel
it or not.
kismet with you always.
Yes. And she called me, Jack and Sabrina, in one person. And I didn't know who. And she said, "Hi, this is Jack Doro Show." I said, "Hello." And he said, "Well, I'm also Flawless Sabrina." And I yelped, "Yes!" Like from the Queen. She said, "Yes." And I just want to thank you because of the show you do about our community, and because you're in local Democratic politics. You're doing a lot for the community, and I want to thank you for that. I'd never met Jack or Sabrina, and I thought that was the sweetest thing. I mean, out of nowhere, Jack Doroshow called me and thanked me for just living. I mean, how great is this? That's the kind of person Jack was.
I absolutely, and I would like to share with him why he would enter the, you know, he would reach out to people off and on, and people were very good to him too, or her, however you like it. You know, I approach the gender currently as like I use the term from Jill Soloway, where it's fluid.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why it's not easy to encapsulate always.
Exactly.
But
yeah.
it's so important for representation, and I try to do my bit by just getting a little gussied up or show up and, you know, be a little bit silly if you can and get away with it. Not as a disruption, but it's like, you know, okay, there's something in the mix, add to the mix. And it's so important to have a voice and others that, you know, represent really a community that exists in big time, and it's an important thing. And so he was always a producer. I don't know if you know, he produced many things, and he used his I guess psychological training. He had a little bit of psychological training that, and he loved that, and to empower people to be the best that they could be, and not to be worried about what everyone else thinks. Don't worry about what the neighbors are talking about, and yeah, very good.
And that's wonderful, you know.
Yeah.
And he gave people like Rachel Harlow a chance. She made it by appearing in his contests, and the culmination was the film The Queen. But she apparently, according to what I've read, had been entering his contests for 2 or 3 years before the Queen contest.
Well, they came from Philly. It was a
Yeah, I
core
know.
group. So and Philly is not the biggest town, and it certainly wasn't back then. So it was a tight network.
According to what I've read,
neighborhoodish.
Harlow started doing drag in 1965, and the top trendy film in those days was Harlow with Carol Baker, about Jean Harlow, and that's why she was named Harlow.
Yeah, I don't know. My gut feeling and experience. I only met Rachel a couple of times, but it wasn't a put on. She just carried her. She was that person, and it was wow. You felt like you were in a movie, and it was just a nice way. And they were very supportive because they realized they had to be a little tough. You know, it wasn't like people were like, "Oh, isn't this wonderful?" You know, you had to be like, "Okay, we're doing a show. We got to get in there," and you know. So it was a core of them, and they went around. They toured the country for years, wonderful. Many years, like 60 shows a year. Wow. A lot. It was a hard thing, and I think it was a little bit of the boozing and things, you know, whatever gets you through the day. Right. And there was that, and then they developed it. It blew up. It went to Cannes, '68. And I think it was embraced by the French. It was, you know, like, oh.
I remember it was all over television in the late 1960s. As I've said, I was a child, but I saw so many interviews about the Queen and discussions about it.
Yeah.
It had never happened before.
Yes.
And it was, and it went mainstream. Yeah. That's the interesting thing, you know.
Yeah. Well, there was a, you know,
David Bowie said he was inspired by Rachel Harlow.
I like that quote a lot. Yeah, I know it.
Yeah. The Stairway to Nowhere. Yeah.
Yeah, because Rachel, she transcended things.
She's dead now, isn't she?
I think. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. I haven't.
I don't know. I don't know. Rachel Harlow, if you're out there,
we love you.
We love you, and give us a buzz. And you're a great star and an immortal. So as is Jack.
Yeah, and I think there was a lot of camaraderie that was built up, and it faded. And so when I knew Jack later in life, you know, there was he wasn't want to relive things. He was always going forward, ball it forward, you know, but recognizing, you know, when there were people reaching out and stuff like that, and it was, you know, it was nice to see and feel, you know, family, extended family, as it were.
And that he'd made history.
Yeah.
And changed the world for us, made it better, easier.
I don't know he would take that claim himself. I think he was aware of his stature, that, but he always kept it personal. It was about you and me, or you and, you know, that person.
Yeah.
It wasn't this, but he recognized that there are people that have that. You used the word activism with me, and I said I don't like to call myself an activist because I have friends that are, and it's more than just being a spokesperson. You just empower people by your presence. Whereas I would maybe explain it or try to explain it. That's not what I think is most effective. You have to be the carrier of the ball, and this is it, and let's move forward and charge. And I respect that a lot, and I think he did a lot too, because he spent a lot of time in front of the camera, in front of the crowd, and he said, you know, it's great, but, you know, God forbid they turn on you and they aren't so happy one day, you know, and they let you know. He said the audience will always let you know if what you're doing is working or not. It's immediate.
Yeah.
And so more power to you for politicking, and
well, more power to you for being you.
Thank you. I'm going to vote now.
Well, there you go.
Yes.
Vote Democratic.
Okay, well
anyway, but we love all political stripes here. But we like Democrats better. No, but anyway. Okay, so now, how did Jack, what were his mature years like? Like, how did he die is what I'm asking.
Oh, gee. Well, you know, gosh, you open up a can of worms here. You're dangerous.
I know.
No, you know, healthcare in America is brutal. And end-of-life healthcare, it's a business. And I put a lot of anger, you know, you're losing somebody that you love. But that last bit of the journey, it just, boy, I don't agree with it.
We have no nationalized healthcare here in the U.S. as we film this, and certainly when Jack Doro Show was alive and was dying. Hopefully that will change in the near future. But right now, if you don't have the money, you don't have the health care. In this country, they say that health care is not a right, that it is a privilege. Most industrialized nations believe that it, see how political I get? Is a right.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
so he didn't have any money to pay for his medical treatment, or
no,
what?
It wasn't that. It's you know, it's a system, and the system is, okay, you get sick, you go to the hospital, and then they run that through, or you go through that, and he knew he never wanted to be there. Get me home. And then when they're done there, and there's nothing more, then it's like, well, then you go into the nursing care place. And I remember he gave this advice to a friend of ours. She said, I'm worried about losing my apartment. And he said, girl, you dig your heels in and you just let them know you are not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. And he was that way with the nursing. No, I am not staying here. This is not for me. Mm-hmm. Take me home, go home. And that's really, it's become like this luxury or a privilege to be able to, end your life at home. It's not what that system is built around. And
presumably
he was a bad customer.
And Medicaid at the same time.
Yeah, they just work, and that's what I thought. There are a lot of things that just are disheartening. And at the same time, at some point, you see pockets of compassion that are beyond human comprehension. Mm-hmm. And Jack, he was somewhat friendly with, oh, Lord have mercy. Oh. He was a writer, and he wrote about the National American Journey, and Terry Gilliam did a lovely film about it, too.
John Cheever?
No, just the opposite. You were at the other end of the spectrum. Oh. Hunter Thompson.
Oh, God, yes.
Hunter Thompson.
Gonzo journalism, yes.
Gonzo everything. Yeah. And Gonzo journalist Hunter Thompson, he said, well, I'm just the type of person that requires fuel.
He liked his bourbon, yeah.
Yeah. And that, but it wasn't to an end of like, okay, I can't wait to fall down in the gutter. Mm-hmm. It was like to get charged up. Sure. And Jack lived that kind of life. And he knew he lived that life. And yeah,
Did he drink a lot?
No, he wasn't a drink. He'd given up the drink because that was from the touring days of the Queen.
Sure.
And he just found that wasn't his best. Yeah. So he did his other smokes and whatnot. And, he's like, even... there were packs of cigarettes still around the house, And
what did he die of exactly?
Not old age, but the body is a physical thing, and it just craps out, and it doesn't. All the machinery isn't always up to snuff, and so they just say it ends up being. They don't call it not a will to live, but an ability to thrive. Your body just as an organism isn't succeeding at sustaining life.
He basically just left.
Yes, under his own terms, which I think is something to be proud of. And
that's how I lived.
Rather than bawling my eyes out, which I can go there sometimes. I look at old pictures and talking to family and stuff. We have stories and share. But, it was a life because he was adamant about living life. Not like, wow, it's a party every day. Like, if there's something you care about, go for it. Just go for it. And whatever it is, it's all right because it's your determination. What do you care about? To take seriously and care about it. And, do the best that you can and make the most of it yourself and let the audience decide for themselves. You don't even have to worry about that. Mm-hmm. They either like you, they don't like you. And if you didn't do it to the best the first time around, well, you pick yourself up, dust yourself off. If you would like, I would love to share a very sweet, this is not quite a flawless story, but an early Jack
and we
story.
have like 4 minutes left.
Okay, great. So this is one of Jack was a raconteur. He was a storyteller to the nth degree and always magical. And you just believed every bit of it. But he said, when I first came to New York, and he was a queen, which I didn't realize.
Where was he from?
Philadelphia.
Okay.
Philadelphia. And he loved dancing. But when he was very young, I think in his teens, he wanted to come to New York, and he was going to be a ballet dancer. And he came all the way to New York, and he came for his audition at this fancy ballet school on 57th Street. And he came in, and there was a stage, and he was turning it out. He was just giving them a show. Mm-hmm. And he hears from the back of the theater, "You, out of here!" And he was so disheartened. He said, "Well, okay, so I wasn't meant to be a ballet dancer." You pick yourself up, you dust yourself off, put a little makeup on, whatever it is that gets you going.
He auditioned as a boy, I would imagine. No?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. But he was very petite. He was effeminate and I don't know. He negotiated that space in a very fluid way.
But that was very difficult when he was young, in those days.
Yes, I think, well, that's why if you were on the stage in the ballet school, that was where it was going to be accepted, he thought. And what he found was he got better acceptance with the audience from the street at the other theater. And they went over to Town Hall and they put on a little drag show. And he said, okay, he said to his gang, you know, and his buddies and his girlfriends, he said, we're going in showbiz. Let's go. Let's go.
And he turned out a really classic, groundbreaking film.
Yes, that wasn't the only film. He had done other...
but that's the one. That is the one. Well, the one that he'll be remembered for forever.
I'm sure, yes.
I mean, 200 years from now, they'll be watching.
Yeah. It's a monument. It's a monument, yes. I don't think he designed it as that. He was just living his life and doing the best he could and knew how. He also produced a small film called Liquid Sky.
Oh, sure. That's very famous.
To me, I thought that's the kind of, wow, that's what I came to New York for.
Yeah, that is very famous.
Light up the nightlife.
Absolutely,
yeah.
But somehow the Queen is the one.
Well, because I think history is, we're in a world that is evolving. And one of the things that are evolving is around identity, and gender is a big part of identity, but identity itself is being a more fluid thing and dynamic, as opposed to, like, you know, boy, girl, boy, you know, cubes, you know, here's your cubicle, you know, sit down,
binary,
shut up. And Jack was never about that. He was like, you know, like his mommy, be free, go for
that's
it.
how my mother was.
Gorgeous.
Isn't that amazing?
Gorgeous.
So anyway, now, okay, well, you can see the Queen, and I'm serious. I will be watching it 200 years from now. You know, you can see the Queen on whatever media is current when you watch this, and whatever's going on, and I do believe this show is. If anyone ever writes a biography of Jack, and I'm sure someone will, they will probably access this show to hear what you had to say.
Friends and community, and they know you, and you know them. And we mentioned Jack Doro Show before.
Whom I love and who's done the show many times.
And that was one of the children around Jack.
Jack was a great mother, in the real sense, not in the nasty, vulgar sense.
Well, he saw it as a two-way street.
Yes, and he demanded, be a responsible person, don't be a screw-up.
They love you back. If you love your kids, you let them fly,
And then, but I mean, he shaped, Cayenne credits him with most of the good stuff.
Oh, I think Cayenne had a lot going on for herself. She says that a lot, but she was pretty...
Yes, she's brilliant.
She's like Rachel. It's a core thing that I respect
and now, alas,
worship.
We are out of time. Anyway,
love you.
My guest has been drag queen, as she likes to call herself, Curtsy, who had a 35-year-long relationship with the famous, immortal Jack Doro Show, also known as Flawless Sabrina, producer and MC of the film The Queen from 1968, which I strongly advise you to see if you haven't seen it. It's great, and you will love it. And it's a time capsule and a great film, both at the same time. Anyway, well, I'm Diana Montford. This has been the Diana Montford Show. Hey, even if no one else loves you, I love you. And so does Curtsy.
Yes.
You are not alone. You are with us. We love you. See you next time.
Yes,
Bye.
please.
Mm-hmm.